Close your eyes and picture a caveman. Filthy skin, animal hide, and a tangled, matted beard down to his chest, right? Here's the twist. Most anthropologists think that image is almost entirely wrong. Long, unkempt hair in the wild wasn't just unfashionable back then. It was dangerous. It tangled in brush, froze solid in the cold, attracted lice by the thousands, and gave an enemy or a predator something to literally grab onto in a fight. So somewhere, tens of thousands of years before scissors, before mirrors, before a single written word existed, a human picked up a sharp rock and made a choice that had nothing to do with looking good. It was about staying alive. That single decision would eventually turn into something no other animal on Earth does, routinely, deliberately reshaping our own bodies, for reasons that go far beyond survival. To understand why humans started cutting hair, you first have to understand what hair actually does in the wild. And it isn't all good. During the last ice age, a heavy beard became a genuine hazard. Warm breath condensing into water vapor would freeze directly onto facial hair, turning a beard into a mask of ice. Frostbite could set in exactly where that ice clung. Long head hair caused a different set of problems. Hanging into the eyes during a hunt or a fight at the exact moment clear vision mattered most. And there's the parasite problem. Dense hair is a 5-star hotel for lice, mites, and other unwelcome tenants, especially in groups living in close quarters. None of these problems are solved by admiring your hair. They're solved by removing it, or at least cutting it shorter. Which means the earliest haircut probably wasn't a style choice. It was basic maintenance, like sharpening a spear. The earliest solid archaeological evidence of intentional hair removal dates back roughly 30,000 years, and the tools were remarkably clever for their time. Long before metal existed, humans used paired clamshells or seashells like a crude but effective pair of tweezers, plucking hair strand by strand. Around the same era, someone discovered that a freshly sharpened piece of flint, the same material used to strike sparks for fire, could also slice through hair with a clean edge. There was just one catch: flint dulls almost immediately, which meant, in a strange twist of history, the very first razors on Earth were disposable. Use it a few times, then nap a fresh edge or grab a new flake entirely. It's the same basic idea behind a modern disposable razor, invented roughly 30,000 years before anyone had a word for disposable or for razor. Long hair doesn't just get in the way. In a fight, it becomes a weapon against you. Grab a fistful of someone's hair or beard, and suddenly you control their head, their balance, their next move entirely. Ancient warriors understood this instinctively, and one of history's most famous examples comes from Alexander the Great. Before major battles, he reportedly ordered his soldiers to shave their beards completely, not for style, but for strategy. An enemy in close combat couldn't grab what wasn't there. It's a small detail, but it reveals something important. For most of human history, decisions about hair weren't really about appearance at all. They were tactical. A shaved face meant one less handle for an enemy to grip. A trimmed beard meant one less hazard in the cold. Long before hair became a symbol of who you were, it was simply a variable to manage, like armor or the length of your spear. Once cutting hair became routine, something unexpected happened. It stopped being purely practical and started becoming a message. A haircut could now say things without a single word. Long hair on one person and shaved on another could instantly signal rank, age, marital status, or which group you belonged to, readable at a glance, across a crowded camp or a busy street. This is where hair takes its biggest turn in this story, from a survival tool into a walking sign. And once a haircut can mean something, controlling it becomes powerful. Whoever decides the rules about hair, a chief, a priest, an empire, quietly decides who looks like they belong and who doesn't. Nowhere would this idea get taken further, or become more elaborate than in one particular ancient civilization obsessed with exactly this kind of visible order. In ancient Egypt, shaving became something close to a national habit. Many Egyptians, especially the upper classes and priesthood, kept their heads and faces completely shaved. Not because they disliked hair, but because the harsh desert sun and sand made a bare, oiled scalp far more practical to keep clean. But here's the twist. A shaved head left you exposed to sunburn, so wealthy Egyptians solved that problem by wearing elaborate wigs. Sometimes for the sun, sometimes purely for status. Suddenly, hair wasn't just about the hair growing on your head anymore. It was about what you could afford to put there instead. A finely made wig became a visible price tag. Meanwhile, priests reportedly shaved their entire bodies regularly as part of ritual purity. Hair, in Egypt, had officially split into two separate stories: hygiene and religion on one side, wealth and status on the other, and both were now permanently tangled with the razor. Across nearly every ancient culture, cutting hair eventually became tied to the biggest moments of a human life. In ancient Greece, men typically kept their beards as a point of pride, but deliberately cut them during times of mourning, turning a haircut into a visible act of grief. In ancient Rome, a young man's very first shave was treated as a milestone, essentially a coming-of-age ceremony marking the transition into adulthood, sometimes celebrated with an actual gathering, almost like a birthday. And that first shave often happened somewhere specific, the tonsure, Rome's version of a barbershop, which quickly became something far more than a place to get groomed. It became a social hub, a place to sit, talk, hear news, and trade gossip, centuries before that same description would apply to a modern barbershop. Cutting hair, by this point in history, had completed an extraordinary journey, from an emergency survival tool into one of the most emotionally loaded rituals a human being could go through. So let's go back to the beginning, because the twist here is bigger than it first seems. That first haircut, tens of thousands of years ago, wasn't about identity at all. It was pure survival maintenance, no different from sharpening a spear or scraping a hide. But somewhere along the way, something changed, and it never changed back. Once humans realized hair could be shaped on purpose, it stopped being just biology and became a canvas. For status in Egypt, for grief in Greece, for manhood in Rome, for belonging in every culture in between. Here's the part most people never stop to consider. Every single time you get a haircut today, you're participating in a ritual that is, conservatively, over 30,000 years old. Older than farming, older than cities, older than written language itself. The tools changed from stone to steel to electric clippers. The reason never fully left. Somewhere underneath every modern haircut is still that same ancient instinct. Control what you can, protect yourself where you can, and tell the world, without saying a word, exactly who you are.